Sarah Wilson, the absolute majestic human being that she is, has been releasing more and more of her interviews with Daisy Ridley and also Rian Johnson. And through doing that, I think she's sparking a little bit of rage. But what I'm interested in talking about today is her recent tweeting of an interview with Rian Johnson where he talks about his goal for Snoke and how he just did not care about Snoke at all. And that's why we got that unsatisfying end. I was going to use a different word, but I realized this is the first 30 seconds of the video. Anyways, take it from here, Papa Palpatine.
You're fulfilling your destiny.
So if you don't know, Sarah Wilson has been doing interviews during the pandemic, obviously over the internet, because meeting in person still isn't a really good idea. And she's been talking quite extensively to Rian Johnson, and Rian Johnson has actually been laying bare a lot of lies of Disney and Lucasfilm that they were feeding to us. The biggest one being that Kylo was always going to die, and also that they had a plan. They absolutely had no plan, and Rian Johnson said, yeah, no, they told me I could do whatever I wanted to do. And so he did. The latest bit of the interview released by Sarah is talking about Snoke and why he did what he did with Snoke. So first, I just want to read what she tweeted and then talk about it, just because I feel like it'd make more sense with me talking about it, but also so that you can draw your own opinions. And let me know in the comment section down below what you took from his interview and her interpretation of the things he said. You're interpreting what she interpreted. Things are gonna get weird. So here is exactly what Sarah Wilson tweeted. I asked Rian Johnson, given that there were no outlines or direction given to him, who he thought Snoke was. I shared with him my hope before The Rise of Skywalker that he would turn out to be Darth Plagueis, especially since people returning from the dead in Star Wars is a feature, not a bug. He didn't want his answer to come across wrong, but to him the question of Snoke's identity was fundamentally uninteresting to him. What he was interested in was Kylo. The purpose that Snoke served in the story was entirely in his relationship to Kylo. He said Snoke wasn't this fascinating character that we want to explore, and who he is, etc. For him, he was laser honed in on the characters on the table that he needed to push forward in this chapter, which were Rey, Kylo, Finn, and Poe. Those four. How did he move them to the next step? Snoke was a bad father figure to Kylo, basically. He said he got to a point where he realized that instead of repeating exactly the original trilogy, which if they drew it into the last movie with Snoke still being the Emperor figure and Kylo being like Vader, it's just going to lead to a natural and expected pattern. To him, the much more interesting thing was, what happens if Kylo ascends? Where does that put him in the last movie where he's in a position of power? To him, that was infinitely more interesting than anything regarding who Snoke might be. His focus for those scenes and Snoke was how they could best serve one of the main characters. I do have this knee-jerk reaction when I hear him name the four main characters and how poorly he did with Poe and Finn. I think more so Finn, he really screwed over and dropped the ball with him. So it is interesting to me to hear him saying, oh, this is the betterment of these four main characters, and then he just took Finn's face and just shoved it in the mud and asked him if he liked the taste. John Boyega did not, in fact, like the taste. And JJ tried to salvage that as best as he could by having, oh yeah, Finn is force sensitive and he will be trained, putting that thread in the future to be a Jedi by Rey. Which is a bit weird, but whatever. We should have gotten Finn Jedi from the beginning, Lucasfilm, Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, you monsters. You cock-teased us. You know it. By God, you know it. I do get his thing about it repeating and just being like the original trilogy, but in the words of George Lucas, it's like poetry. It rhymes. That's the point. And that's definitely the point in our own history. Things repeat. We seldom learn our lessons as humans. Hey, how's it going? We fuck up a lot. And we just don't learn. And if we do learn, it's because we just got our shit kicked in so bad, we're like, oh, okay, well, we kind of have to adapt now. We're just beautiful, stubborn, stupid little beans, and I love it. But I think where the dissatisfaction comes in is that Rian Johnson could have made it different than the original trilogy. It seems like in Ryan's head it was an all or nothing. So I don't want it to be a predictable Luke, so instead he just fucking gives up on everything. He's a loser, he's a hermit, and then he dies. Okay, I don't want this to be like the Emperor Palpatine in the OT, so Snoke just dies. It's over. No story there. And I feel like there was a way, and I'm not saying Rian Johnson isn't creative, that he hasn't done good stories. I like Knives Out, but I do want to say that there were ways to not make it like the OT and not make it predictable, but at the same time, not spit in the faces of those characters and the people watching it. And if you like The Last Jedi, I'm not criticizing you for liking it. You can like whatever the fuck you want. I like The Last Unicorn. I've watched it way too much. We can all like and dislike what we do, but there is room to talk about how mishandled those characters were. And definitely there were characters mishandled in all of the sequel trilogy, but also in The Last Jedi. It's also quite weird to see something made into a big bad, and then, oh, he was just grown in a tank by Palpatine, and there wasn't more to it. Especially when we've started to get more backstory about Snoke after the sequel trilogy, actually a little bit before The Rise of Skywalker. We see these miniseries, we see Snoke and what was going on, and it's just so odd and so unsatisfying. And I do understand that in life there are a lot of unsatisfying endings, of course. Things just happen randomly and it's over and you're very confused and devastated, but not when you're telling a story. Not when you have the ability to. That was lazy. And I think Rian Johnson definitely took the lazy way out with some of the characters in The Last Jedi. There are some characters in The Last Jedi and some things that he did that I genuinely did like. But in other ways, it was lazy and it was just to be contrarian, and I feel like it was just, in his words, subverting expectations. And you can do that, but you can do it in a logical way that is good storytelling. Now, if you really wanted to do something unexpected, Ryan, which I think you really did, and I think you still do, with the Star Wars series you keep telling everyone that you have, the trilogy, you should have had Rey take Kylo's hand. You should have had her join. And then they could have had their dark lineage together. There were ways to go against the OT and still make it make sense and not be so hastily done. And I think maybe part of the problem is, and you hear this in a lot of Rian Johnson's interviews, he says that it's uninteresting to him. This was uninteresting to me. Poe and Finn together was uninteresting to me, so instead, I ended up having Rose and Finn. Snoke was uninteresting to me. Luke being a Jedi Master that had his shit together was uninteresting to me. And so it seemed like Rian was given a story that wasn't his own, and he wasn't able to bring it where he wanted, and he wasn't interested. How many times can I say interested or uninterested? He wasn't. And that's why if he would have been given a different Star Wars trilogy from the get-go, or just a movie and done that, that would have done wonders for him. He could have put his creativity and made characters that were interesting to him. But unfortunately, he was given something, and he decided to fuck with it when he wasn't wholly interested in that story. And that's where the divide comes. Personally, the more that comes out from Rian Johnson, I'm actually more upset with Disney and Lucasfilm and their lack of control and structure and thinking things out for the sequel trilogy than I am at any individual that wrote or directed these films. It's just Lucasfilm and Disney controlling Lucasfilm has a long way to go to redeem themselves and to gain the trust of their Star Wars fans that are still there. Now, obviously, there are still Star Wars fans that absolutely love Star Wars and everything about it. I absolutely love everything about Star Wars, but there is a bit of a feeling of distaste and distrust with a portion of the Star Wars fandom, and I think they're slowly redeeming themselves with The Mandalorian, and we'll see with the Book of Boba Fett, live action Ahsoka, and then releasing the final season of the animated The Clone Wars. They're taking steps in the right direction. And it's sad because I think as we distance from the sequel trilogy, we're going to see more of these interviews and showing just how bad they fucked up. Thanks so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe for more Star Wars videos.